Why social change? According to Mahatma Gandhi, there are some models of people. Generally, there are two sources of dimensions of change. One source is not systematic change, such as climate change, some kind of technology innovation from outside, or change for by foreign countries also. The other sources is a system change, the modernization required a basic level of pre-resources and the development of standardized and predictable institutions is there, such as stable but flexible market system and political process. An additional requirement was that governing institutions be flexible enough to adapt to changes in the come up or in our entire life. Most of the time, changes to society come about through some combination of both systematic and non-systematic process in entire human life. So, functionalist perspective, that means functionalist perceive society to be a system comprising various functions that operate collectively to maintain order and stability. The English education, the cause is formal colonies of the British Empire, tensions and strains within the system itself, especially those related to economic activities. Economy is solely responsible for resolving societal problems, within industrialism playing an essential or special crucial role in Indian society. Though production and various other economic activities, social change is accelerated such as that society has to adapt as a whole. A change in a part affects all others. These activities include improvements in technology, whereby new innovations come to be forced, trade, and other countries. Social change in the functionalist view can also occur at different levels, be it on a micro scale, involving groups and peoples and etc. within one's immediate environment. Macro level, economic, political, and educational system. For instance, functionalists also believe that cultural norms and values unite society, which is largely resistant to change and thus ensure that change in social structure is likely to be slow. If it conflicts with enriched cultural, religious, political principles, the time frame of change also plays a significant role. So the distinction between long term and short term is change important. Social change in India, భారతదేశంలో మార్పు వస్తే tradition breaking influences operate over a period of time have weakened the links within the bound the various elements of the popular Indian society. Hinduism has developed a sense of obligation to the social whole and committed to the principles of equality. The provisions of the constitution laying down fundamental rights, the reform of marriage and also inheritance laws, the change in the character of marriage, the rising to the surface economically and politically submerged communities have given it further shake-up. As a matter of fact, caste, the sheet anchor of popular Hinduism, it has become a negation of the society. 3,000 aggregates of people rigidly exclusive, aliens socially to each other, neither intervening nor intermarrying, each claiming superiority over the other, can never make a integrated nation. The way to progress is through the widening of the circle of social activity and relationship, and also the collective consciousness of social life is the inspiration for the highest forms of the social endeavor. In medieval society, the collective consciousness has tended to disappear. Therefore, unless the caste indeed, it may not be possible to explore new ways to a homogeneous, creative, and cooperative fellowship. Surprisingly enough, while the abolition of castes has become a historical necessity, the psychological insecurity produced by the weakening of some of the binding links binding links of the religion and tradition makes people cling to castes. The casteism is very dangerous in our society. There is some changes in our Indian society. There is a highly developed and differentiated urban society. There is the host of smaller peoples and tribes added to natural barriers are the psychologically and social barriers. The color consciousness of the Aryans and the distinction between the uh, ఏమంటారంటే ద్విజ and Advaya. It is begin the stratification. A new వర్ణ కొత్త రకమైనటువంటి వర్ణాలు శూద్ర or artisan and also added the different types of races in the society. So racial elements powerful enough to resistant assimilation and organized in to maintain their separateness, retain their identities, reconciling themselves to the underlying position of the non-religious and recognizing the superiority of the Brahmins in our society, mainly in Indian society. Weaker groups are related generally a position outside of these communities. That's why we have to change in our Indian society mainly. Renunciation and not living is the end of life. And this structure of thought is supervised. The caste system, this is linked with karma. It validates the differences in status. So these ideas emanating from Brahmin centers of learning infiltrate into the different types of peoples, which no secular authority could provide, linking diverse beliefs into a consistent pattern and laying the foundations of a common polity. To the emergence of this fusion and synthesis, the Dravidian system contributes as much as the Aryan, as is evidenced by the survival of Indus Valley religious ideas and forms in the Hinduism of today. It is to this Aryan Dravidian influences to which flow many other currents that our Hinduism, the Indian civilization, and Brahmavarta, it is a part of North India was known, expands into Bharat extending from from Kamrup to Kuch అనమాట అంటే హిమాలయన్స్ టు కన్యాకుమారి. So this composite to civilization becomes the heritage to all our Indians. Our Indian society grows more and more complex and horizontal mobility tends to become a vertical and elaborate rules of purity and pollution, both external and internal, are formulated. There are elaborate rules regulating marriage, property relations, and social intercourse, etc. etc. The low born are buried from wells, schools, temples, not only their duties and also actions are openly restricted, but also their children are prevented from receiving the education through which alone they could hope for social betterment. While a Brahmin may legitimately aspire for moksha after death, those at the lower rungs of the ladder can aspire only for the next higher step, the Varna Dharma. It is enforces upon the individual the duty of the following a very pattern of behavior which fixes the position of his society. Uh, rewards him for some doing some making adherence to duty pathway higher status in the next life on earth. So these are all the some of the views and assumptions regarding to the Brahmin community. These beliefs in and our Indian society and assumptions, it is hardly ever realized are the products of a socio-economic order which took shape into a particular historical context. They are not born of an inherent psychological traits of a distinct ethnic category. Many of these assumptions have a social purpose. They make for stability. They are not divinely ordained, though they are supposed to be so. They have become an indivisible part of Hindu life and continue to exercise strong influence even when material conditions of life have completely changed. There are some social reformers. Earlier, Mahavira and Gautama Buddha symbolized the revolt against the ritualistic, Brahmanic orthodoxy, emphasizing the superiority of right conduct over meaningless rituals. During the medieval period, Kabiru, Ramananda, Nanaku, so many others stressed these good lines or God lines of man and the sinfulness of denying him his status. So in modern time, Vivekananda, he emphasizes that the unique characteristics of Hindu society, the caste, the giant family, the rights of inheritance, and the relationship arising out of them are social and legal and not religious institutions. Ram Mohan Rai attempted a reinterpretation of Hinduism, a synthesis of the doctrines of the European Enlightenment with the ideas of the Upanishads. Swami Dayananda found in the Vedas inspiration for universal brotherhood and a non metaphysical approach to God and society. But the Hindu society accepted these changes. Gradually, the orthodox was held, it was the inherent weakness of the Hindu society. Gandhi had some social changes. According to Gandhi, how the society will be changed. This was the state of affairs when Gandhi emerged on the Indian sense with his humility, and saintlessness. He was like a rishi of ancient times who had stopped out of an epic. He had realized that it was not the British guns but our own imperfections which kept us in bondage. He knew the weaknesses stemming from the stratification of this social system or caste system, regionalism, social injustice, and ignorance. He was a devout of Hindu, a man of faith, deeply and sincerely religious. But his Hinduism was as wide as the skies. To the minds conditioned by the ideas of the Smritikaras, Kautilya, and Machiavelli, and modern political thinkers, which separate the secular from the religious. His assertion that life was indivisible and could not be divided into watertight compartments. He was like a breath of fresh air. For him, there could be no etas between preaching and practice. He always sought to correlate thought and action. Therefore, for him to know was to act. Politics, as believed, had not only unavoidable contacts with ethics, it was conterminous with it. He spoke in a language understood by the masses, and also because mass understanding is at a low level, he had sometimes to make efforts to reach that level. But he spoke with conviction, courage, and transparent sincerity, truth, and non-violence, the two words to which he gave such wide currency, optimized his ideas. He observed like it has been said, God, God is truth. Perhaps it is better said, truth is God. God is truth or truth is God. Non-violence is the law of our spices as violence is the law of the brute. Even good ends do not justify its means. Our real enemies are our fears, greeds, and egoism. These are all our enemies. We must change ourselves because we have to change. We can change others before we can change. So the laws of family, of truth and love, charity are also applicable to groups, countries, and nations. So these are deemed to be wholly impractical concepts in politics. Yet Gandhi lived in his own life each one of them. Unconventional techniques is there. Gandhi never bothered about developing a well coordinated, internally consistent system. It has always consisted of thoughts. He went through a continuous process of evaluation, correcting, modifying, or enlarging his ideas in the light of fresh experience. But he was bound more by the voice of his consciousness, by love of man, than deterred by fear of inconsistency. When he said that Swaraj could not be granted even by God, but had to be earned, he appeared to reject the teleological view, but when he affirmed in the context of political decisions that he was in the hands of God, he appeared to confirm it when he said that the Bihar earthquake was a retribution for the sins of untouchability. Tagore, that's unscientific explanation of physical phenomena would deepen that element of unreason. So he was unrepentant and replied that man did not understand the ways of God. He shuddered when people touched his feet and once said that the cry Mahatma Gandhi ki jai pierced his heart like a arrow. But when he decided to embark on a 21-day fast from May to 1933, so I had gone to sleep the night before without the slightest idea of having to declare a fast next morning. At about midnight, something wakes me up suddenly, and then some voice within or without, I can't say, whispers the must go on a fast. How many days? I asked 21 days. When do I begin? You begin tomorrow. So he went off to sleep after making the decision. During one of his tours, the inhabitants of a village told him that his auspicious presence had made the village well miraculously filled with water. He reproved them. You are fools beyond a doubt it was an accident. Suppose a crow stands on a plane tree at the moment when the tree falls to the ground. Will you imagine that? The weight of the bird brought down the tree. So, because there are some problems are established in our society. Daridra Narayana, a man whose most cherished desire, admits in his autobiography was to see God face to face and attain moksha. He found the way to it in his love of humanity, in his ambition to be able to wipe every tear from every eye, a strain free nationalism. 1920 after 1930, during this time, Gandhi was busy trying to find a way to greater integration of our people. He was the first to realize that, like the constituent units of Germany and also Russia, but unlike those of the USA, the linguistic regions of India had histories and traditions which were of value and went for back in time. A composite, strong, strain free nationalism would seek to safeguard these unbroken traditions and developed languages, even welcome pride in them when the primacy of national interests is so willingly recognized. He had become in himself the embodiment of Indian nationalism, and it appeared to him as to all a reality beyond question that two ideas of national languages and linguistic states were not only he felt complementary but also they were both necessary. Some of other ideas for the change in our Indian society, abolition of untouchability. Abolition of the other link through which he wanted to forge greater unity and integration was through the abolition of untouchability. And the revival of the society, men are born equal, but they are also born with varying inclinations, temperaments, attitudes, the aptitudes. Their spiritual growths differ. Instead of letting struggle and competition determine and categorize these differences, it would not be a infinitely better. He argued the Chaturvarna and hereditary were accepted as a natural regulatory principle. Month after month, week after week, he returned to the theme in his Young India and later in Harijan about untouchables. So socially they are lepers, economically they are worse, religiously they are denied access to places. We miscall houses of God. If we do not appraise untouchability, we shall be effaced from the face of the earth. So the four varnas are fundamental, natural, essential, while the innumerable castes, subcastes are. So nature's law of conservation of human and true economics, it is the classification of different systems of self-culture. It is the best possible adjustment of social stability and progress. It tries to include families of a particular way of purity of life. Only it does not leave the decision whether a particular family belongs to a particular type to the interested judgments of a few individuals. It trusts to the principles of hereditary being only a system of culture does not hold that any injustice is done if an individual or a family has to remain in a group in spite of their decision to change their mode of life for the better. So change comes very, very slowly in social life, and caste has allowed new groupings to suit the changes. These changes are quite and easy as change in the shape of the clouds. It is difficult to imagine a more harmonious adjustment. Caste does not cannot superiority or inferiority. It simply recognizes different outlooks and corresponding models of life. Caste is the classification of different systems of self culture. So it is the extension of the principle of the family. Both are governed by blood and heredity. So its value from the economic point of view was very great. It ensured hereditary skill, it limited competition, it was remedy against pauperism. It had the advantage of trade guilds. It was man's experiment in social adjustment, the laboratory of Indian society. If we can prove it to be a success, it can be offered to the world as a leaven and as the best remedy against heartless competition. Varna is inherent in human nature. Hinduism has reduced it to a science. Caste at present, it is a distortion. But in our eagerness to abolish the distortion, let us not abolish the original. It is not a human invention, but an immutable law of nature. So, the statement of a tendency that is ever present and work life, Newton's law of gravitation, accepting varnas and denouncing caste system. Mahatma Gandhi uses varna and caste, they are interchangeable terms, and believes that all types of men can be categorized under four broad occupations: teaching, depending, wealth producing, and manual labor. He wrote, such is the Varna system which we were trying to change. It is like Parkington with a mob trying to push back the Atlantic Ocean. So, and Gandhi proved to be a prophetic as far as the desired dream. It was concerned. While Gandhi elaborated and stressed his conception of caste and Varna, accepting the Hindu consciousness to catch up with the new thinking. He considered the eradication of untouchability. It is a matter of gravest urgency. His fast, which commenced on 20th September 1932 as a protest against Ramsay MacDonald's communal award. It was historic event, but Gandhi was against it, any kind of separation since he considered it bad for both Hindu and also untouchables. And ultimately, he came to the conclusion that caste had to go. He wrote the most effective, quickest, and the most unbrutalized way to destroy the caste is for the reformers to begin the practice themselves, and when necessary, take the consequences. It is desirable that caste Hindu girls should marry Harijan husbands. That is better than Harijan girls marrying caste Hindu husbands. If I had my way, I would pursue all caste Hindu girls coming under my influence to marry Harijana husbands. So, on another occasion, he said that caste ought to go root and branch. If untouchability had to be completely eradicated, since he had finally come to that conclusion, he was questioned as to why he did not make anti untouchability work for a part of wider crusade against the caste system because if the root was dug, the branches would wither away themselves. Gandhi replied, it is one thing for me to hold certain views, quite another to make my views acceptable in their entirety to society at large. So if I live up to 125 years, I do accept, expect to convenient the Hindu society, the entire Hindu society to my view. So the social problems, apart from the problems of untouchables, it is generally held economic. So if economic problem is rightly tackled, the rest need no matter. It seems to be a very superficial view. Gandhi's dictum of the indivisibility of life supports that our approach must be integrated and that while economic and political must receive adequate attention, the social may be ignored only at peril to both. So today, casteism has permeated political life to such an extent that the very structure of our democracy is threatened. Reservations in the views of Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was not happy at having had to accept reservation to be made it clear that the past was not directed against it. It was separate electorates. He could not accept and he was pleased when the Pune Pact ended then. The past initiated an emotional turning of Hindu society. It did not kill untouchability. It could not nor did segregation and repression end, but untouchability forfeited public approval. It snapped a long chain that stretched back into antiquity. Some links of the chain remained, but nobody would, or the new links, nobody would link the links. So the manifestation of the emotional uphill found a concrete expression in the launching of the Anti-Untouchability League on 30th September 1932, which later, when Gandhi evolved the new term Harijana, became the Harijana Sevak Sangh. So many among castes, Hindus, however, were not happy. All India agitation was launched against the pact, aimed at preventing its inclusion in the government of India. Some of the uh, views regarding women reservation, women participation in politics or in society. So there is another views. Gandhi movement to at another significant social reform. This is also one of the reforms. Women, even in the urban ridden areas of North India, attended his meetings in large numbers. Many participated in the movement and quoted imprisonment. If India today boasts of the larger number of women legislators in the world, the credit in large part of the revolution goes to Gandhi. So he did not, however, make a frontal attack against caste. Initially, he had felt that a reformed caste system could provide the links that would forge Hinduism into a nation. But he was gradually disillusioned. Gandhi did not succeed in bringing about a radical change in the Hindu social order. He did not aspire or work for it, but he did put untouchables on the road to emancipation. The emancipation of the Hindu mind, which alone will herald The new order must necessarily be a long drawn and painful process. The class problem, which calls for a guarantee of the minimum necessaries of life, housing, employment, quality integrated neighborhood school for all, cannot be separated from the caste problem, which is the problem of a moral and mental revolution. But time is running out. The deepening caste distrust is not inevitable. What is needed is commitment to action on a massive scale to make democracy equally good for all, to promote increasing communication across caste lines, and to halt polarization. And whatever actions is proposed, it must be in the Gandhian way, an exercise of moral force. Many of the Gandhian ideas might not be seen to be relevant today. So Gandhi would have outgrown them. But the idea of application of moral force to change group behavior will hold, and the impact of the idea will be more durable than appears today. So Gandhi social change. He has a according to his views, the entire society must be changed. That's why he tries. There is a number of reformers were born in our Indian society. So Mahatma Gandhi maximum try to change the Indian society. Next to next unit to Hindu Muslim unity. Two most important goals of Mahatma Gandhi's public life are the Hindu Muslim unity and the liquidation of untouchability. Gandhi repeatedly declared that those two goals were dearer to him, even prior to the goal of Swaraj, that is freedom. He believed that the Hindu Muslim unity is a prerequisite for India's independence and nationhood. He did not want Swaraj without Hindu Muslim unity. He wanted that in independent India, both the communities should not suppress each other. He had said that if this unity is established, unity with other religious communities could be easily strengthened. He was successful to a large extent in undermining, if not completely eradicating, untouchability, as many constitutional and administrative provisions measures were enshrined for its abolition and to improve the lives of these people. Hindu Muslim unity evaded Gandhi efforts to prevent it. The country had to accept partition, experience forced partition, communal killings as the price of freedom. There is more to it. Even after independence, Gandhi continued to make gigantic efforts to achieve Hindu Muslim unity. He became martyr in the process. Notwithstanding, this is must be acknowledged that no other leader has developed or devoted so much time and attention to the problem of Hindu Muslim unity as Gandhi did. Unity between Hindus and Muslims was almost an article of faith with him. He felt no stone unturned in his efforts to bring about that unity. He preached, he wrote, he negotiated, he fasted and prayed for this unity which eluded him. Gandhi wanted to address this problem in a different manner that on the principles of give and take. Give and take, he said, is possible only when there is some trust between the respective communities and their representatives. If the Hindus and Muslims love each other, the gulf between them will disappear and it will be lead towards unity because this unity does not exist. He said 17,000 Englishmen were able to rule over 300 millions of Indians. So, throughout his political life, Gandhi worked for Hindu Muslim unity. For building of this unity, he supported the Khilafat movement, the rights of minorities, the idea of composite nationalism, and condemned the communal riots, efforts for communal unity. Gandhiji said, I am striving to become the best cement between the two communities. My longing is to be able to cement the two with my blood. If necessary, before I can do so, I must to prove to the Muslims that I love them as well as I love the Hindus. Ali brothers as blood brothers. Hindu Muslim unity does not mean unity only between these two communities, but it means unity between all those who believe India to their home, no matter to what faith they belong. This unity will have a message for the world, like late poet Iqbal, Gandhi to believe that the Hindus and the Muslims have lived together long under the shadow of the mighty Himalayas and have drunk the waters of the Gangas and the Yamunas. Despite having different religions, they lived for centuries in peace, independence, or in defense. He quotes a line from Iqbal's famous song, Hindu Muslim unity was likened by Gandhi as a marriage where both Hindus and Muslims should love each other with unconditional love. At another occasion, he called Hindu Muslim unity as a growing plant in its delicate infancy, requiring special care and attention. Gandhi also advocated interfaith and intercultural dialogue for achieving Hindu Muslim unity. His theory of religious pluralism and the principle of equality of all religions, which requires the tolerance of diversity of religions, was also part of his efforts towards communal unity. Khilafat movement. Gandhiji supported Khilafat movement also, so Muslim support. So new era of Hindu Muslim cooperation, slogans of Hindu Musliman ki jai and Hindu Musliman ek hai resounded through the air, although undoubtedly this was an unprecedented effort for unity. It did not last for long. A detailed study of Khilafat movement was covered is one of the preceding courses. So, addressing the students, Aligarh Muslim University, Gandhi made an impassioned appeal to the university students to produce servants of the country and Islam like Gokhale, recalling the simplicity of the Omar. He argued the students to emulate the Khalifa by shunning the use of soft silk garments and advised them to wear khadi. This was a way of life. He said they would establish a living bond between themselves and the millions of the Indians. He asked them to consider themselves as custodians of the India's honor and makers of Hindu Muslim unity. He saw Khilafat as an issue of just to religious cause. In addition to a major plank for Hindu-Muslim solidarity, he provided national leadership. The movement and asserted that a gesture of goodwill on the part of Hindus over Khilafat was destined to produce a reciprocal response on the part of the Muslims. So, the demise of the Khilafat has turned the breakdown of the precari- precariously balanced of harmony between Muslims and Hindus, leading to the eruption of Hindu-Muslim riots. The Muslim against the Hindus and Christians landlords in the Malabar region and the cohort riots are instances of the political agitations degenerating into communal violence owing to the mixing of religion with politics. So many of Gandhi's contemporaries and some scholars criticized the launching of Khilafat movement. It has emphasized pan-Islamism to an extent that Muslim identity it was bound to suffer, while some of them opined that only the Indian Muslims got agitated and responded. And also, Khilafat movement had been idealized as an anti-colonial movement, but its main achievement was the turning away of Indian Muslims from secular understanding the politics towards a religious communalist. One of the in Nanda's observation highlights the communal unity due to Khilafat. It was not worth appreciating as the two compounds. The restoration of Khilafat and the achievement of the India's independence were through Janet. They were nearly merged into an integrated struggle. The Indian National Congress All India Khilafat Conference had separated to separate funds. They held their meetings separately, and Gandhiji said had no control over the Khilafat committees. He fights for rights of minorities. Gandhi fought for the rights of minorities during freedom struggle. He said that without the problem of minorities being solved, there is no Swaraj for India. After partition also, he appealed for Hindu-Muslim amity and asked both the communities not to swear by past. Excuse me for 1 minute. Gandhi almost all fight for the rights of minorities. He said that without the problem of minorities being solved, there is no Swaraj for India. After partition also, he appealed for Hindu-Muslim unity and asked both the communities not to swear by the past, but turn the searchlight inwards, settle down to the fact that in Pakistan as well as in Hindustan, both Hindus and Muslims had to live together as common citizens. He felt that it would be shameful indeed if the majority in India thought that they have the upper hand over minorities. If the minorities in India is made to feel small on that account, I can only say that this India is not the India of my dreams. In the India of whole fashioning, I have worked all my life. Every man enjoys equality of status, whatever his religion is. What I wish India to do is to assure liberty of religious profession to the every single individual. Then only India can be great. For it is perhaps the one nation in the ancient world which has recognized cultural democracy, where it is held that the roads to God are many, but the goal is one because God is one and the same. Gandhi, the only non-violent solution to Hindu-Muslim questions is to let the minority communities take what they like. He even said that he would not hesitate to let the minorities govern the country. Composite nationalism. Gandhi believed in composite nationalism. In his earliest writing, Hindu Swaraj or Indian Home Rule, Gandhi had declared in 1909 India cannot cease to be one nation because people belonging to different religions live in it. The introduction of foreigners, Muslims, does not unnecessarily destroy the nation, they merge in it. That country must have faculty for assimilation. India has ever been such a country. In reality, there are as many religions as there are individuals, but these who are conscious of the spirit of nationality do not interfere in one another's religion. If they do, they are not fit to be considered a nation. If the Hindus believe that India should be peopled only by Hindus, they are living in dreamland. The Hindus, the Mohammedans, the Paris, and the Christians who have made India their country are fellow countrymen. They will have to live in unity if only for their own interest. In no part of the world are one nationality and one religion synonymous terms. On the question of inborn enmity between Hindus and Muslims, he further elaborated that the phrase inborn enmity has been invented by the Britishers. The Hindu Muslims lived in peace for centuries. Hindus flourished under Muslim sovereigns and Muslims rule, and also under the Hindus, both the communities recognized the mutual fighting was suicidal, that neither party would abandon its religion by force. Their peaceful living was disturbed by the Britishers who made both of them quarrel. Gandhi opposed the partition of India. He declared before him India should not be partition. You shall not do what even the Mughals who ruled over India for over 200 years did not do. According to him, the two nation theory was an untruth. The vast majority of Muslims of India is converts to Islam, or it may be converts. They did not become a separate nation as soon as they became converts. He further argued that the Bengali Muslim speaks the same language, that as Bengali Hindus does eats the same food and has the same amusements. As his Hindu neighbor, they dress alike. He said it was often difficult to distinguish between both of them. Some had common names like Iqbal. Again, he said when he first met Jinnah, he did not know that he was a Muslim. He came to know his religion when he learnt his full name. His nationality was written in his face and manner. At one point, he offered a sort of separation. The Muslims must have the same right of self determination that the rest of India has, who are at present a giant family. Any member may claim a division. It must be noted that the credit of Gandhi's and Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad could serve as the president of Indian National Congress during its most crucial phase in 1940 or 46 period during which partition debate utilized. So the selection of Maulana Azad was not merely a political pragmatic choice to contain the influence of Muslim League, but was rooted in his conviction that the nation does not belong to the religious majority alone. As Gandhi, while posting shortly before his death against the communal outbreak in 1940 at Delhi. So, from Kashmir and also Karachi and some Assam Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and others also, who people this vast subcontinent and who have adopted it as their motherland have an equal right to it. No one has a right to say that it belongs to the majority community, that the minority community can only remain as the underdog. So there is some of the issues affecting the Hindu Muslim unity. Many important serious issues affected the goal of achieving Hindu Muslim unity despite Gandhi's sincere efforts. Cow protection. Cow protection or anti-cow slaughter was another major issue which divided the Hindus and Muslims during Gandhi's lifetime. As much as it troubles in contemporary India, this issue even led to inter-community riots. Gandhi considers that cow protection it is a central to Hinduism. Hindus worship cows. To him, the cow is the protector of India because being an agricultural country, she is dependent on the cow. The cow is always a most useful animal in many ways for him. So cow protection means the protection of the weak and the helpless. Cow protection means brotherhood between man and beast. With the farmer being cow worshippers and the later being the beef eaters. Gandhi exhorted the Muslims to understand the religious sensibilities of Hindus and voluntarily refrain from beef eating. Gandhi also opposed the killings of cow killers because such an act as against the tenets of Hinduism. So Gandhi is always opposed the killings of cow killers because such an act as against the Hinduism should respect both the cow and our fellow men. He considered that by fighting or killing a fellow human being in order to save the cow, he believes almost in ahimsa or non-violence. That why he is always against these cow slaughters. The Khilafat agitation, the Muslim League, so under the Ajmal Khan's presidency carried a cow protection resolution at Amritsar in 1921. So thousands of cows were saved by the willing efforts of Muslims, the Ali brothers, for the sake of their Hindu countrymen. So gave up eating beef in their homes. Gandhi highly appreciated such measures. So the Islamic law does generally prescribe the rites of sacrifice of the animals to be performed on the occasion. So music before masjids. Gandhi's opinion, the question of music before masjids was a sore point with the Muslims as the cow slaughter was with the Hindus. For the sake of communal unity, Gandhi appealed to both the communities to respect the feelings and sensibilities of the other communities or other religions and argued them to refrain from hurting each other's sentiments on the basis of give and take. He sought a spirit of cooperation and accommodation between both the communities and asked them to refrain from playing music before the masjids. Gandhi did not favor the use of force to stop music before the masjid or cow slaughter. So these cannot be stopped at the point of sword but only through voluntary measures. He opined. Urdu Hindi controversy, the attitude of Gandhi towards the Hindi Urdu controversy also caused among the Hindus and Muslims controversy. So the Congress constitution, mainly drafted by Gandhi, recognized that Hindustani, written in both Hindi and Urdu scripts, would be the country's language. But on 14th July 1926, around the view, so long as the Hindu-Muslims tension lasted, there would be two scripts, but eventually there would be only one universal script for the whole country. While presiding over the Hindi Sahitya Sammelanam in 1935, he said that Hindi or Hindustani should be the lingua franca of India and that Devanagari script it was to be used for all Indian languages. So Bharatiya Sahitya Parishat he reiterated the same view and also added earnestly the Urdu was the religious language of the Muslims when there were loud protests from Muslims against Gandhi's partition. He modified his stand and reverted to the original formulation that India's national language would be Hindustani, written in both Devanagari Lipi and also Urdu scripts. But later, he also clarified that he had agreed to the use of two scripts only as temporary measure. Ultimately, one script would be acceptable to all. The communal rights, causes, and social implications. As to the causes of Hindu Muslim riots, Gandhi said, in my opinion, the riots are due to the ideocracy of both the communities. He said that only when the Hindus and Muslims shed their fear and mutual suspicion can unity of heart come. So, failure of coalition in Uttar Pradesh. When Gandhi attended the second roundtable conference, he was not only the sole spokesman or spokesperson for the Congress, but also he claimed to speak for the whole country. When Nehru stated, in the final analysis, there are only two forces in India, British imperialism and Congress representing India's nationalism. Jinnah strongly contested the statement and said that there was a third force also, and that was the Muslim League. This attitude of the Congress not only offended the Muslim League, but also it was a challenging to the identity of the vast majority of the Muslims who were not with the Congress and constituted only 3% of the total Congress members. So the Congress formed the ministry in 1937 after the assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. The League had won 26 seats against the 134 by the Congress. So Jinnah, still a liberal, had proposed an experiment of Congress League coalition in Uttar Pradesh. An informal understanding was reached that two ministerial berths would be offered to the League. Nehru and Azad were opposed to this coalition. Nehru wanted only one berth to be offered to the League. Ultimately, it was decided that League could be included in the ministry on the condition that its MLA would join the Congress parliamentary party and function under the Congress discipline. Further, it was suggested that the parliamentary board of the league in Uttar Pradesh should be dissolved and the league members work for the success of the Congress candidates in future. So these conditions were perceived as aiming at the liquidation of the leagues in Uttar Pradesh. There was widespread resentment among the Muslims over this episode. So this resulted in the increased membership of the league that stood at 1,330 in 1937, which rose 100,000 within a year and 2 million of in 1934. This reflected the fears of uncertain future for Muslims. Hello? Hello, anybody? Respond, any audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, madam. Reforms in religions. It is another concept. There is according to Gandhiji, there is a number of sources for the religious thought. Gandhi generally educated from Vaishnava's family in a religious atmosphere. In formative years, he was exposed to a strong Jain influences also. Gandhi is generally, his father being a public official, had numerous visitors to the house, Muslim, Jain, Christian, and Hindu. Gandhi's closest companion in earlier experiments with the truth was a Muslim classmate. Gandhi was administered house by a Jain monk who was a close acquaintance of Gandhiji's while he was leaving for England. His mother belonged to a Pranami sect. So Gujarat, he follows Saint Gujarat and Mahamati Pranath, so who taught equal respect for Hindu and Muslim beliefs. So he worshipped God without form. An 18th century report indicates that the center of worship, God without form, is tool with the Purnas. Till the age of 20, his knowledge of Hinduism was extremely limited and read the Gita and persuasion to do so in England by Theosophists. Theosophists, when they invited him to read Arnold's The Song Celestial and the English authors and also rendering of Gita. So that's why he influenced a lot. His introduction to the Bible, the New Testament, particularly the Sermon on the Mount, went straight. These are all the influenced in Gandhi's maximum, which made him a good Hindu, a good Muslim, or a good Christian, though he was a Jain. He restored Gandhi's faith in Hinduism. He also explained the doctrine of the many sidedness of the religious truth. He regarded different faiths like any valid endorsers in which men and women confined themselves on the meaning of religion. He said, Dharma does not mean any particular creed or dogma, nor does it mean reading or learning by root books known as Shastras, Dharmas. They are the equality of the soul present in every human being. Dharma is the means by which we can know ourselves. No organized religion is a special repository dharma. We may accept this means from whenever we get it, whether from India or Europe or Arabia. The answer to the question we had struggling with since his childhood. So, which was the one true religion that he could adopt and reject the other are false. The religion, okay, that means belief in any set of doctrines but an innate attribute of the soul. It enables to define the human duties in life and establish correct relationship with the Hello, beings, religion is the means of the self realization or realization of the persons. Gandhi and the reconstruction of Hinduism. Before Gandhi, many eminent persons like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, founder of Brahma Samaj, and Dayananda Saraswati, founder of Arya Samaj, attempted to reform Hinduism. Gandhi appreciated the Brahma Samaj movement for its crusade against sati and polytheism and the campaign for the widow remarriage. He felt that it brought all the good from the Christianity and the Islam. In fact, it rationalized and liberalized Hinduism. It has cultivated toleration for the other faiths. So highly critical of Arya Samaja movement, Gandhi was highly critical of Arya Samaj movement. I have read Satyagraha Prakash, the Arya Samaja Bible. I have not read a more disappointing book from a reformer like Dayananda Saraswati. So he was great. He had claimed the stand for truth and nothing less, but he has unconsciously misrepresented Jainism, Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism itself, one having even cursory acquaintance with these faiths. So he has succeeded in employing idolatry, some of the subtlest form. He was idealized the letter of the Vedas and tried to prove the existence in the Vedas of everything known to science. He was critical towards Arya Samaj, although its success was greater. He felt that its appeal was limited. The most innovative interpretation, Gandhi's criticism of Christianity, were influenced by his readings of the work of Tolstoy, Edward Maitland, and Anna Kingsford. Like Tolstoy, Gandhiji does not accept the immoral doctrine of vicarious atonement. He does not think that it was ever taught by Jesus. So, there is no basis whatever for moral responsibility in the belief that one's sin can be foreign through the suffering of someone else, and such an idea implies injustice in the Godhead. Who can forgive? One sin can be forgiven, but in which religion is possible? So, if this with the Christianity acknowledged by all Christians, I cannot accept it. I do not seek redemption from the consequences of my sin. I seek redemption from sin itself, or rather from the very thought of sin. Until I have attained that end, I shall be content to be restless. Gandhi also opposite the doctrine of the proist, one of the philosophy. He chided Christian missionaries for their irreligious gambling or converts. He opposed conversion from one religion to another. So they never converted to Hinduism, but the Hindus almost all converted to Christianity and Islam and etc. etc. So, who wrote extensively on non-violence and stayed in his ashramam was also called Govind, but never became a Hindu. He disallowed conversions in his ashramas. So, the reason why he opposed this philosophy was because he recognized that all faiths are true and divinely inspired. Gandhi believed that Jesus and his message did not belong only to Christianity or to any one community, but his lessons belong to the whole world. Once he had told Mr. Pollock that to be good Hindu was to be good Christian, and there was no need to become a Christian in order to be a believer in the beauty of the teachings of Jesus. So Gandhi and Islam. Gandhi appreciated Islam for its two distinct contributions to India's national culture. Firstly, for its unadulterated belief in the oneness of God, and secondly, for its practical application of the truth of the brotherhood of man for all believers. Gandhi read a translation of the Quran and the life of the Prophet Muhammad and was struck by the humiliations and hardships happened upon him and his followers. In fact, Gandhi had advised English disciple who had been reading Upanishads to read Quran and assured that she would find many gems in it. So when Gandhi was told that Islam and its prophet had prescribed the use of sword in certain circumstances, religious pluralism. Religion was viewed by Gandhi as the cementing foundation in the human community, for he believed that various religions were beautiful flowers from one garden or branches of the gigantic tree, that all of them were equally true. The Allah of Islam, the Gandhi wrote, 1938, Harijan, is the same as the God of the Christianities. That's why leaving faith in this God means equal respect for all religions. It would be the height of intolerance. And intolerance is a spices of religions. So Gandhi was one of the outstanding religious pioneers of all times. Several Christian leaders have spoken of him the greatest since the time of Jesus, and also M.N. Rai, a communist and radical humanist who had been sharply critical of Gandhi's religious approaches to politics. And thus later that he had failed to detect the secular approach of the Mahatma beneath the religious terminology, and essentially Gandhi's message had been moral, humanist, cosmopolitan. So the greatest contribution of Gandhi's is that he strengthened the concept of secularism in India. Though he was deeply religious, he was against any proposal for a state religion, even if the whole population of India had professed the same religion. He looked upon the religion as a personal matter. Sorry, Andy. Another call came for me. So, his first biographer, Duque, wrote, "This is one of the greatest religious views for closely allied to Christianity, to entire Hinduism." So finally, Gandhi is as one of the greatest reformer to all religions. So we will go to the next unit. Gandhi's views on women. Gandhi finally is opinion that India's salvation depends on the sacrifice and enlightenment of her women. While narrating about women's position, he was of the opinion that just as fundamentally man and woman are one, their problem must be one in essence. The soul in both is the same. The two live the same life, have the same feelings. Each is the complement of each other. So the one cannot live without the other's active help. Gandhi recognized that women were made subordinate to man through several social practices or traditions, and that these have conditioned women's thought process. He writes, somehow other man has dominated women from ages past, and so woman has developed an inferiority complex. She has believed truth of man's interest teaching that inferior to him, but the says among men have recognized her equal status. Gandhi, however, has recognized the essential need of gender based division of labor in certain areas of social lives. To him, there is no doubt that at some point there bifurcation between men and women. So both are fundamentally one. It is also equally true that in the form that there is a vital differences between the two. Hence, the vocations of the two must be different. Women will always undertake requires the duty of motherhood, which the vast majority of. So man need not possess. She is possessive or active. He is also active. She is essentially mistress of the house. He is the breadwinner. She is the keeper and distributor of the bread. She is the caretaker in every sense of the term. The art of bringing up the infants of the race is her special and solo prerogative. So without her care, the race must become extinct. So that's why, according to him, man has specific duties which are to be performed for the sun's stability. In his opinion, it is regarding both for men and women that women should be called upon or induced to forsake the earth and uh, shoulder of the rival for the protection of that earth. So that's why, Srivi, beginning she brings herself, the sin will be on one's man's head of the tempting. So he almost, according to Gandhiji, she has some specific duties. Anyway, he almost all gave respect to the women. Ahimsa, Satyagraha, and women. Gandhi acknowledged the influence of women in his life, his mother and wife, in the formation of his opinion on women. So, the image of his devout mother is and efficiency personified, personified influenced Gandhi to a great extent. He found immense determination in her person and greatly admired the religious qualities in her. So the devotion to God and household duties impressed him truly. He recollects in autobiography that she would take the hardest vows to keep them without uh, the pinching. Further, his wife Kasturba also came to play one of the important role or important part in his life. Both personally and professionally, she was courageous, determined, and displayed enormous patience. Even as child, she was an independent in her life and in her thinking and actions, which surprised an extent. Anayad Gandhi is an young husband eager to establish his authority over his wife. That's why Gandhi also acknowledges that Kasturba displayed a great resolve of Satyagraha. She would resist the undue demands of her husband with firm resolve in a non-violent manner, while at the same time doing her duties without fail. Later, she proved to be active Satyagrahi, fighting the mighty Britishers or British power along with the thousands of people in their fight for the freedom of our nation. So Gandhi, woman is the true incarnation of ahimsa. According to him, the realities of life are to be conditioned by the practice of ahimsa. Therefore, men and women are placed with a combination of morality and sacrifice. He recognized that women would emerge as leaders of the society because of their high moral values and sense of sacrifice that would be guided by ahimsa and satyagraha. He writes, my contribution to the great problem lives lies in my presenting for acceptance of the truth and ahimsa in every walk of life, whether for individuals or nation. I have hugged the hope that in this woman will be the Cochin leader and having thus found her place in human evolution. She will shed her inferiority complex. If she is able to do this successfully, she must resolutely refuse to believe in the modern teaching that everything is determined and regulated by the both. I have suggested that woman is the incarnation of ahimsa. Ahimsa means infinite love, which again means infinite capacity for suffering. Who, but woman, the mother of man, shows this capacity in the largest measure. She shows it as she carries the infant and feeds it during 9 months, and there is joy in the suffering involved. What can beat the suffering caused by the pangs of labor? But she forgets them in the joy of creation. So let her transfer that love to the whole of humanity. Let her forget that she ever was or can be the object of man's lust, and she will occupy her proud position by the side of man as his mother, maker, and silent leader. She is given, so it is given to her to teach the art of peace to the wearing world thirsting for that nectar. So she can become the leader in Satyagraha, which does not require the learning that books give, but does require the stout heart that comes from suffering and faith. So according to Gandhi, woman is the emblem of ahimsa and non-violence, weak in striking, strong in suffering. She had come to occupy a pivotal position in his plan of Satyagraha. He wanted to convert her self sacrifice and suffering into Shakti power in South Africa as well as in India's non-violent struggle for independence. Women had played an equal part with men, if not greater. The deepest inspiration in his own life had pity and penance of his devotee mother. His heart yearned for the suppressed half of humanity as he contemplated the sense around him. So, especially in India, the Peter spectacle made his gaze. So, almost all, she is given a step motherly treatment as if she had sinned against the society in growing up and must needs be suppressed. So, freedom and women. Gandhi has always advocated freedom for women, women's equal status in the society, and their participation for the equal status in the society and their participation in the struggle for freedom of the nation. To quote him, I passionately desire the utmost freedom for our women. I desert, I detest child marriages. I shudder to see a child widow and also shiver with rage when a husband just widowed contacts with brutal indifferences another marriage. I deplore the criminal indifferences of parents who keep their daughters utterly ignorant and illiterate and bring them only for the purpose of marrying them to some young man of means. Notwithstanding all this grief and rage, I realize the difficulty of the problem. Women must have votes and equal legal status, but the problem does not end there. It only commences at the point where women begin to affect the political deliberations of the nation. So, the ideal of marriage, Gandhi was not only a universalist, he was also an idealist. He has given a lot of importance to the spiritual dimensions of marriage and the husband and wife relationship. The ideal that marriage aims at is that of spiritual union through the physical. So, the human love that it incarnates is intended to serve as a stepping stone to divine or to universal love. The wife is not the husband's bond slave, but his companion and his helpmate, and an equal partner in all his joys and sorrows as free. Child marriage is another one. Gandhiji was against child marriage. To him, it is an out of sin, breach of trust, and the part of the parent. What is Kanyadan in the case of little children? As a father of any rights of property over his children, he is their protector, not owner. That is the feelings of the Gandhi. The least that a parent who has so abused his trust as to give in marriage an infant to an old man in his duties. These are all some of the social evils which were happened during the uh, in ancient days. Dowry system. Gandhi was against the practice of dowry system also. To him, the root cause of this practice is linked to the practice of the caste system. So he suggested that the system has to go. Gandhi was also against the system of dowry, and he should be, it is nothing but the sale of girls according to him. That there should be caste even amongst the lowest categories was deplorable. And he would strongly advise them to abolish all caste distinctions among themselves. And in this, they should bear in mind the opinion the speaker had often expressed that all caste distinctions should be abolished. Marriage must cease to be a matter of arrangements. It made by parents for money. So the system is intimately connected with caste so long as the choice is restricted to a few hundred young men or young women of a particular caste. The system will persist. No bonds of caste if the evil is to be eradicated. Therefore, Gandhi has emphasized the role of education and education institutions for breaking the caste and the dowry system. So he suggested that education should help them developing a strong character that will revolutionize the mentality of the youth of the nation. He also advocated providing good education to girls and their equal stay in matters of their marriages. So there should be work done in the schools and colleges and amongst the parents, girls. The parents should so educate their daughters that they would refuse to marry a young man or who wanted a price for marrying and would rather remain instead to be a part of the degrading terms. So Gandhi felt that when child marriages were abolished, naturally there would be few, if any, young widows. So as a general rule, he was for one man, one wife for life, and one woman, one husband for life. The custom had familiarized women in the so-called higher castes with enforced widowhood. So the choice of mates and social interference. Gandhi's very liberal idea about the selection of mate for marriage. Gandhi was for regeneration of no one of the new societal values. However, this process of regeneration could not be done in isolation. He wanted the youth to generate public opinion for such change. Marriage and love. Gandhi, marriage is a natural thing in life. The ideal is to look upon marriage as a one of the lead to life of self-restraint in the married estate. So marriage is one of the in Hinduism is one of the four ashramas. In fact, the other three are based on it. Gandhi, marriage is not simply for satisfaction of biological need, but it has a longer function to perform. To him, spiritual development ought to be given the first place in the choice of marriage. Service should come next. Family considerations and the interest of the social order should have the third place, and mutual attraction, love, the fourth chi, the last place in the order. So this means that love alone, where the other three conditions are not fulfilled, should not be held as the valid reason for marriage. At the same, marriage where there is no love should equally be ruled even though all the other conditions are fully complied with. So divorce. Gandhi had firm views about divorce also. He remarked that marriage confirms the right of the union between the two partners to the exclusion of all the others when in their joint such union to be desirable. Child remarriage. Gandhiji was extremely concerned about the rights of widows in India. However, the conservative outlook of the Indian society has blind eyes towards this social evil. Gandhi was very forceful in argument on this issue. He finds out that we cry out for some protection in the name of religion. So we refuse protection to the girl widow in the name of religion. So the reform must begin with much earnest and courage. So he supported the idea of widows' remarriage. So widows' remarriage is no sin. If it be, it is as much as sin as the marriage of widower. So is all widowhood is not holy. It is an adornment for who can observe it. If this sister has the courage, then let her speak out her mind to her uncle and her brothers and seek their help. So, these are all some of the suggestions, or he was a some of the reformer regarding to all social evils which were prevail in our Indian society, in Indian culture and Hinduism. Population control and women. For Gandhi, extensive human development is absolutely necessary for proper utilization of manpower of the country. Therefore, he advocated the development of agricultural with proper land system and supplementary industry. His views on population control is unique. If it is contended that birth control is necessary for the nation because of overpopulation, I dispute the proposition. It has never been proved, in my opinion, by a proper land system, better agricultural and supplementary industry. This country is capable of supporting twice as many people as there are today. But I have joined hands with the advocates of birth control in India from the standpoint of the present political condition of the country. So, on the question of the mother whose health is drained away by too many children, and for the sake of children themselves, he mentions that women should have to resist their husbands. So, no other leader during the course of freedom struggle has given a prominent place and position to women as did Gandhi. He had immense faith in their determination, spirit of service and sacrifice. He disapproved of the male domination over women and also the farmers' resolve to suppress the latter. He constantly spoke about the equality of men and women. He advised women to refuse to serve as men slaves, have an identity and a respect of their own. So Gandhi has always advocated freedom for women, women's equal status in the society, and their participation in the struggle for freedom of the nation. Gandhiji plan of integrating the depressed classes. Many leaders of the depressed classes being convinced of the Gandhi's approach towards grievances, the depressed classes of the present directed to the British government of their rightful representation in our country. So there are some criticisms on Gandhi's views. Simply we study about this one. Gandhiji faced strong opposition from a section within the Congress leaders who are called as Orthodox Hindus for his approach towards the cause of the depressed classes. In their opinion, the need of the hour was political emancipation, and once it is achieved social emancipation, would automatically follow. They were also not inclined to go against the prevailing Hindu social system for the sake of integrating the depressed classes. They were opposed to any special provision for the reservation of the seats for the depressed classes in the legislative bodies because they believed that this would divide Hindus. Even people questioned his appeal for removal of untouchability and expressed their concern about the survival of Hindus in the hands of Gandhi. During Gandhi's Harijan tour during 1933-34, Orthodox Hindus staged demonstrations against Gandhiji in places such as Nagpur, Amaravati, Akola and Belgium, Puri and etc. Ahmedabad, Benares, Allahabad, etc. Reporting on Gandhi's campaign for temple entry and removal of untouchability. The official report noted as for the Sanatanist. It is very difficult in Gandhiji's elements as incarnation. The deprived classes responded in different voices to Gandhian initiatives for social and material development of the depressed classes. So, although there were people within the depressed classes who found in Gandhi an advocate for eradicating the social system, so many were skeptical of the outcome of Gandhian initiatives. So most prominent among such depressed classes leaders was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Gandhi tried to address the problem of untouchability without attacking the caste system and through self-purification who desired to remove untouchability. Ambedkar wanted to develop an independent identity for the depressed classes and to do away with the caste system. Ambedkar wrote in the first issue of Harijan. So the outcast is a byproduct of the caste system. So there will be outcasts as there are castes. Nothing can emancipate the outcasts except the destruction of the caste system. So nothing can help save Hindus and ensure their survival in the coming struggle except the purifying of these ideas and so Ambedkar more than untouchability it is important to understand the problems of untouchables. He was not agreeable to Gandhian suggestions. For treating untouchabilities, there is some of the rages relating to the religious. So Ambedkar was opposite to the paternalistic attitude of Gandhi and other Congress leaders towards the depressed classes and asserted that the Congress has done nothing to help the depressed classes in their struggle against the Hindu Orthodoxy. So he strongly advocated for special electorate for the depressed classes so that they have their own representatives in the legislative bodies to protect their interests in the assembly or legislative bodies. Written by Ambedkar, what the Congress and Gandhiji have done to the depressed classes or to the untouchabilities or untouchables. Families, one with Ambedkar's reservations about Gandhi's prescriptions towards the problems faced by the depressed classes. So the unit and Pune Pact families, the learned on the subject concerned, Dr. D.R. Nagaraj argues that one should take the village-centered vision of Gandhiji and treat it with Ambedkar's distrust of the rural society to cure its normative excesses. So, the lower castes in India have now where else to go, and their will to transform the existing rural society should be strengthened. Dr. Nagaraju, and while making any appraisal of the Gandhi, it is essential to keep in mind that the major concern of Gandhiji was to put up united challenging against the British, and for that he wanted to develop a cohesive voices based Gandhiji's views on children and youth. Education of children. Gandhiji, good education for children was almost all importance for their development or source in them. So the seeds of humanity, love, respect that would enable them to become good human beings upon their growth. So the basis should start from religious sources as these values are taught to one from the very childhood. So a child also observes traditional practices at home and follows up with them throughout his or her life. Gandhiji advocates an education that insists one character building and spirit of service, religion. Gandhiji remarks that all those who have firm faith in their religion are strong, not weak. He suggested that boys, girls should be taught that they are not weak. Children have their religion to strengthen them. Following any religion means belonging to God. So we must inculcate this in our children from the time they start showing some understanding. You must tell your children that the place of religion is in their hearts and it is not in your power to protect it. I have taught my children that they must protect their own religion. So, development of intellect. Gandhi felt that little children do not need the assistance of the books so much as they need the assistance of teachers. Since there is a shortage of trained teachers, the primer should be designed to assist the teachers rather than children. So he wanted that the literature for children should be a universally accepted original contribution to the methods of teaching children of a country so vast and so poor as ours. He did not approve of expensive European models as they serve little purpose in the city girl. So, a gentle and vigilant teacher should gently teach the children habits of discipline so that their reason, being freed from the control of their senses, would become from the every childhood their guide. So it is no discipline to tell the children to follow a hero. No habit is cultivated. Thereby, the children who are taught to slavishly do things become sluggish. Corporal punishment. Gandhiji, in reply to a school teacher questions regarding following the non-violent way of handling the erring students, said, I am quite clear that you must not inflict corporal punishment of your children. Child labor. Gandhiji suggested imposing prohibition against the employment of children of school-going age in factories and etc. He opined that childhood be spent in acquiring education and not in working in factories to sustain the family from the effects of poverty. Child labor is now a major factor of financial wherein thousands of children in India are employed in factories to earn a livelihood. Trafficking of children has to become a common offense that robs children of their innocence or makes them work through hard labor at a tender age. So Gandhiji spinning recommended. He recommended spinning for children too. He wanted that women and children up to the age of 12 to spare time for spinning and other process of khadi production. Even if children devoted 4 hours to cleaning, carding, and spinning, enough khadi could be produced. Gandhi envisaged this task for children with the simple aim of inculcating the spirit of service and sacrifice. So
Sir,
Gandhi, okay, sir, time is over.
time అయిపోయింది. మన ఈ
Okay, sir.
రోజుకి విల్ క్లోజ్ సార్.
Okay, sir, you can conclude, sir.
Tomorrow again by 3 o'clock, sir.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.